Look what I bought for just 20 euros. This is Dell XPS laptop. It's a 7th generation i7. Oh, I didn't even realize that when I bought it. It looks in very good condition. There's just a small mark down here, which I'm hoping is the webcam and not a crack on the screen. But this was sold to me as faulty, and I'm going to plug it in and we're going to see what happens to it. So if I plug in, this is my own adapter right here. So we plugged in. Okay, so we've got a light down here. Press the power button, see what happens. Oh God, I hope this doesn't come on. I hate when I buy something that's advertised as not working and then I find out that it's working. I think that's the worst result of all. Okay, so what's happening? We're getting nothing on the screen. I have an external display plugged in just in case, and there's nothing coming on with that either. So it looks like we have a power on, but no display situation. My favorite. Let's take out the board, scan it to the screen and start troubleshooting.
I've scanned in the motherboard so you can see it here in the left pane. Now, because we're getting a reaction to the power button, I think most of the input section is working fine, but just for practice we're going to run through the input section on this. Now, I've got a schematic for it which you can see here. So our DC input connection that comes in from our barrel connector is connected to ADP100. So let's see if we can find ADP100, and we're going to trace the path that our power takes onto the laptop. I've found ADP100, which is right here. It corresponds to this connector right here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. If we look at our schematic here, you can see that we have 1, 2 and 3 are connected together. That's our DC in. We have 4, which is our PSID, and we have 5, 6 and 7, which are essentially connected to ground. So let's mark those in on our actual motherboard. So with my DC jack plugged in, I get my multimeter, set it to volts DC in a 20 volt range, and we just check for the correct power signal at the DC in. So place my black probe to ground and my red probe to the DC in, which we've established as being pins 1, 2 or 3. I find that it measures 19.90 volts. So we've got a correct input voltage. So as we can see here, when our 19.90 volts comes in, it goes straight through these vias and off somewhere else on the board. So looking at our schematic, if we scroll across, we can see the pins 1, 2 and 3. They come out here and are called DC in. So let's see if we can find DC in further down the schematic. Further down the schematic, I've spotted DC in, so you can see that the next component in line is PQ200. And if we look at our motherboard, if I scroll across, you can see we have PQ200 marked here. So our DC in should be coming in here. It then comes on to PQ200, which I've marked in here, and that's a gate, 3 source pins and 4 drain pins. After it exits that, presuming that that MOSFET is switched on, it then comes on to a second MOSFET, which is PQ201, that's this one here. And then after it exits this MOSFET, presuming that this MOSFET is switched on, it comes out here. And then, as you can see, it's not immediately obvious where it goes, it's off somewhere else on the board. But let's just take down some measurements and confirm that this section is working. So let me mark in all the voltages that I measured in this section. Well, first of all, our DC in, this is what comes in from our power adapter. We have 19.90 volts coming in on the source pins of PQ200. The gate pin was measuring 6 volts. That's switching this MOSFET on because it's a P-channel MOSFET. So our 19.90 volts comes through from our source pins to our drain pins, and I'm measuring 19.90 volts at this point. That 19.90 volts comes onto the drain pins of PQ201. I measured the gate pin of PQ201 as being 9.5 volts. Again, this is another P-channel MOSFET. So this MOSFET is switched on and our 19.90 volts comes through from our drain pins of PQ201 to our source pins, and I'm measuring 19.90 volts right here. Now again, it's not immediately obvious where our voltage goes from here. So looking at our schematic, you can see that the next component in line should be 2 parallel inductors. Actually, there's 2 other inductors here as well. So we're looking for PL200, 201, 202, 203. Let's see if we can find those. On the other side of the board, I found those inductors: PL200, PL201, PL202 and PL203. So taking some measurements at this section, I found that we had 19.90 volts here and 19.90 volts on the other side of the inductor. So everything is okay up to this point. Now after those inductors, this is labeled as SDC in, and we need to search for this further down our schematic. SDC in comes out here, and the next component in line is PR300, and I found PR300 on the other side of the board. So this is our current sense resistor. So our signal comes on to that current sense resistor. After the current sense resistor, it then comes on to two inductors, two parallel inductors, PL300 and PL301, and then after that it is labeled as charger source and goes off somewhere else. So just to confirm, I took some measurements around this area, and as you can see, I measured 19.90 volts through the current sense resistor and through the inductors. So everything looks good up to this point. As you can see, I've made the schematic full screen so that we can see a bit more of the detail. Now we've measured 19.90 volts at PR300. That means that our adapter voltage has come through those two input MOSFETs, through the inductors, and is coming right to our current sense resistor. So everything is good up to this point. Now this is our battery management IC right here. It's a BQ24777. One of the jobs of this battery management IC is to regulate that 19.90 volts down to a system voltage, which, as we've seen before, is usually called sys or VSys or something similar. On this schematic, it's referred to as B+. So if this battery management IC is working, it should be regulating that 19.90 volts down to a lower voltage, which is then sent down to all of our secondary circuits. If this IC is working, we should also be able to measure a fixed LDO voltage on pin 24, which is Reg N. I'm not sure what this is for this IC. It should be something like 6 volts, I think. But let's take a measurement at pin 27 phase and see if we have that secondary B+ voltage, and see if we have a fixed voltage on pin 24 also. Back on our motherboard, I've located PU300, which is our battery management IC, BQ24777. So let's mark in the pins on that. I took a number of voltage measurements at this battery management IC, so let me mark those in on the screen. Now we had already established that at our current sense resistor we have 19.90 volts, so we essentially have a good input voltage to this battery management IC. Pin 27, which we saw from the schematic, is our B+ voltage. That's the voltage that's sent down to all of our secondary circuits. I measured it here and found that it was a stable 13.6 volts, so that also looks good. The Reg N, which we saw from our schematic, is our internal LDO, was measuring 5.3 volts. Now I think this is meant to be 5.4, so it's a little bit under that, but given that we have a stable B+ voltage on pin 27, I think the battery management IC is working. So we've established that we have our B+ voltage, which is 13.6 volts, and that's going down to all of our secondary circuits. So the next thing I wanted to check was just to confirm that our 3.3 volts always on and our 5 volts always on power are present. The power button is working, so I suspect that it's fine, but let's just confirm that. This is the IC that's responsible for producing our always on power. It's a TPS 51285B. And let me mark in the pins on that IC. And these are the voltage measurements that I took around TPS 51285. First of all, V in on pin 12, our input voltage, I measured that B+ voltage, which is 13.6 volts. So we've got a good input. On VReg 3, which is our 3.3 volts always on power, I measured 3.29 volts, so that's fine. On VReg 5, which is our 5 volts always on power, I measured 5.15 volts, so that's also good. And our two switched higher current outputs are also measuring correct. On pin 18 SW1, I've measured 5.15 volts, and on pin 8 SW2, I've measured 3.37 volts. So this IC is working fine. Now when I was checking around all of my secondary circuits to make sure that they had B+ voltage, I found this. So it looks like PL500 has been completely blown off the board. Look at that. I found PL500 on our schematic. So as you can see, our B+ voltage, which is 13.6 volts, should be coming through that inductor onto PU500, and then PU500 is generating our +1 volt power rail. But given that our PL500 is blown completely off the board, I guess we would expect to find maybe 13.6 volts RB plus voltage here, but probably nothing at all on this side. So I took the voltage measurements on both sides of the inductor, and what I found was, surprise surprise, we have our B plus voltage 13.60 volts on this side. However, on the other side of that inductor I measured here and I found that we had 2.75 volts. So I'm sure some of you are probably saying, why don't you just replace that inductor and power it on and everything should be fine? Well, that might be the case, but it also might be the case that there's a short somewhere on the other side of the inductor that is causing it to blow. Before replacing anything, I thought it would be a good idea to check for shorts on the other side of that inductor. So I disconnected all power from the laptop, introduced my multimeter in diode mode, placed my red probe to ground, and then started taking measurements with my black probe. On the other side of PL500, I took a diode mode measurement and I found that it measured 0.45 volts, so there's no short there. At inductor PL501, which is on the output of PU500, I took a diode mode measurement of 0.07 volts. Now this is low, but I don't think it's a short. And just to be comprehensive, I took diode mode readings at every pin connected to that IC PU500, and as you can see, none of them is reading short. Next, I decided to just remove that inductor and see if there was any damage to the tracks underneath. So with that inductor removed, I can see that the pads are still pretty much intact. I was worried that there would have been some damage to them, but I'm going to be able to solder something across there. So just to test it, I got a piece of jumper wire and soldered across those pads in place of the inductor. So with our jumper in place, I decided to check the voltage. So I plugged in our power adapter and nothing exploded, thankfully. So what should be happening now is our 13.6 volts should be coming through this jumper wire down to this IC, and as we saw from the schematic earlier on, this regulates our 13.6 volts down to 1 volt, which should be present here if this IC is working. So we need to take a voltage measurement at this inductor. So I introduced my multimeter in volts DC in a 20 volt range. I placed my black probe to ground and placed my red probe to this inductor. And when I did that, I found it measured 1.004 volts. So it looks like putting that jumper wire across where the inductor was has brought power back to that IC, and we now have our 1 volt power rail back online again. Now, one of the components that gets its power from that 1 volt power rail is UH2, which is our chipset. So it's useful to check at this chipset to make sure that it's getting the correct voltage. So once again, measuring in volts DC, I go to the capacitors beside this and I measure on this side of this little capacitor, and I find that we have 1.004 volts. So our chipset is definitely getting the correct input voltage now. However, that's no guarantee that our chipset is actually working. We'll only know if it's fully working when we try and power it on.
I've put the motherboard back into the laptop and connected up to the screen and just the keyboard and other peripheral components. So let's try and power it on. So I'm getting the power on button, but we always had that anyway. Okay, so backlighting the keys. Oh, we have screen. Would you believe it? I didn't really expect that to work. Okay. So simply soldering across PL500 has brought power to the chipset, and it's now back working again. My concern was that whatever was on the other side of that inductor was also blown, but it seems like everything is working. Any idea what might have caused that? Did it look like a spill? What blew the inductor? I guess we'll never know. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for something new.